On the 26th of March, the 22-member Indian crew of the container ship Dali were featured as heroes. No less than the President of the United States said they had helped avert a catastrophe, warning the city to shut down a busy commuter bridge as their out-of-control vessel slammed into the structure. Now, a month later, the Indian crew continued to remain on board the vessel, and worse, they've been accused of negligence. The city of Baltimore has called them incompetent, lacking skill, and that they were inattentive to their duties. And joining me to discuss the big questions in this case are Captain Alok Bansal, Captain Naveen Singhal, who's been closely following this case, and my colleague Justin Thomas here in the studio at News9 Plus. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. Captain Singhal, I want to start by asking you, since you've been following this case so closely from day one, how exactly did this flip in from a story of bravery and foresight and fortitude to one of negligence by the Indian crew? How did the tables turn so quickly?
I mean, and thanks to your channel for giving thanks to Dali and for the 22 Indian crew, particularly in this election season. So, well, the thing is that the mayor is certainly concerned about their bridge, and so what they have done is they have filed a petition in the court over there, and urging the judge to actually limit the liability. That's the whole the essence of it. They won't turn the civil case into one that is criminal case, and when they do that, then in that case they can break the liability which the Synergy and Grace have filed in for, limiting their liability to $43.7 million. So they want to break that liability, and that is one of the reasons why they've done that. But all their allegations can actually be proved incorrect because everything has been it's a very haphazard and very irresponsible statements, because every allegation is supported by documentary evidence, whether it's in terms of certificate of competency, whether it's in terms of the training as per STCW convention and all the other stuff, all relevant records that prove that is wrong. But I think that is a lesser concern right now, because the bigger concern is the FBI that has stepped in.
Right.
So that is something that is really causing concern, because FBI, it appears, has been actually not knocking the doors, cabins of the crew, but they've been banging the doors, and they've taken possession of all the cell phones of all the crew members. So the crew members have socially got disconnected with the outside world, and there is sort of a incriminating sort of situation with the crew. Right. And this they've done without even having an initial briefing or anything of that sort.
Yes.
So this is a serious concern, because FBI is now looks like hell-bent on converting this into a criminal case. The experts in the US do believe that the FBI should have waited for the NTSB to complete the investigation.
Yes.
But the FBI has come in and doing it simultaneously. And in this case, there is one important thing. If the evidence that emerges is of some criminal offense, if they do come out with that, the civil proceedings, the criminal proceedings will take precedence over the civil suit.
Right. Absolutely. Captain Bansal, firstly, this thing of the Indians, the way that they were featured first as heroes who saved the city of Baltimore, so many people from certain death on the bridge, by alerting the city, and then a month later you have the FBI investigating them. They've seized their computers, their cell phones. There's no contact with the outside world. It's so tragic that we don't even know the names of the crew members or their families, what condition they are. Could you tell us about how worried you are by this fact that Indians, increasingly in the last couple of months, we've seen them in a lot of global flashpoints, be it the Red Sea and now in the off Iran, and now you have them bang in the middle of Baltimore, stuck here with the FBI. Do you think there's reason for the FBI to detain them the way Captain Singhal mentioned, to pursue a criminal case, to go against, to investigate their training and skill sets and all that's been mentioned in the petition?
See, there is no doubt that this accident was a very serious accident.
Right.
It's actually disrupted. In fact, for some time it disrupted any traffic to Baltimore port. The bridge is gone. I think it will take at least a few years before it can be reconstructed back. It's a
Right.
huge cost. There are insurers who are involved. There is the there's a state government. There is, of course, the federal government, which has said that they will probably step in and provide them support. So huge amounts are involved. There are insurance companies on both
Right.
sides who have stakes in this particular case. Now, let me be very honest that there has been a major accident,
Right.
and of course, Crew was very prompt in informing the authorities, which prevented movement of traffic onto the bridge.
Yes.
Having said that, uh, the times that we live in,
Yes.
you can never rule out a conspiracy angle, and that's why I
Right.
think FBI is gone in. We
Right.
need to clear this very clearly because there are recordings, there are evidence which
Yes.
shows that it is purely a genuine accident and nothing more. And once it is proved, I think the criminal case falls. And that is what is important. The process, unfortunately, especially in the United States, is a very long drawn process, and especially
Yes.
if FBI starts investigating from some ulterior motive angle, it could take a long time. And that is what is my concern, actually.
Right.
Why has the FBI got involved? Do they have some clue, something? Have they got any hint? Why are they looking into this?
Right.
Because
Why is
normally no one would.
Yes. Absolutely. Why is the FBI getting involved
Yes.
in this? And I'm,
There is no doubt that this sort of an accident has disrupted a whole lot of things as far
right.
as.
Right. Absolutely. I'm
Baltimore-
going to ask Captain Singhal this point, but before that, I want to speak to my colleague Justin Thomas, who's here in the studio with me. Justin, what strikes you as bizarre about this accident? The fact that, you have this massive ship loaded with literally thousands of containers, which just crashed into one of the key bridges in Baltimore. It's suspended that port. It's one of the most important ports on the eastern seaboard of the United States. And you have 22 Indian crew all caught in the middle of this thing. I mean, do you think that there's reason to believe that there was some kind of a conspiracy at work, given the way the videos that initially emerged, you remember, of the lights on the ship going out completely and before the collision?
Right, Sandeep, a month back when this really happened, we were also contemplating this same about the fate of the Indians.
Right.
And that's at that point also our fears were going around that will they be stuck on
Yes.
the
How
the
long
ship?
will they be
How
on
long
the
will
ship?
they be
Yes,
on that ship?
Exactly.
What are the facilities they're being provided?
Right.
But considering the fact that the American system, that how it works, because first of all, Baltimore is a very critical seaport which is
Right.
completely now
Yes.
cut off right now.
Right.
So nothing is happening there. They have to clear off the ships. They have
Yes.
to clear off the containers, which is still an ongoing process. At the same time,
Yes.
the legal was expected that both civil and criminal is going to take place, and FBI very much was going to be in the picture.
Right.
So it's a long drawn process that we knew, but I think the way it's getting played out, how much time it's going to take, it's again psychologically very affecting for the people.
Right.
But considering the fact that Indians happen to be in most of the merchant navy ships across
Yes.
the world, so the fact that there are so many of them, it also rankles the fact back home also their families must be affected. There's still no information as to how they are being
Right.
being told about real-time updates. But I think this is a long-drawn process that we are going to see.
Is it a long drawn process, Captain Singhal? Could you just take us through this thing, because you track these developments very closely, in the merchant shipping world. What happens next? How long will the crew be on board? I'm assuming they have all the supplies that they need because they were setting out for Singapore, so several months voyage. But what happens now that the FBI has taken over and they're investigating this case?
Yeah, so their well-being and supplies and food supplies, that won't be disrupted. And I think I did see a video on their being supplied with provisions. So I don't think that part is. But yes, the FBI, as Captain Bansal is mentioning, is absolutely right. Now that they have stepped in here, they are certainly going to, this case could extend to months and maybe even a year or more. You never know. And it is possible. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but there's a very good chance that the crew will be there for much, much longer than we can expect.
Right.
So the reason is why the whole crew, because they would like to question it. So even though there may be a lot of people who have nothing to do with the machinery space and things like that, but still, coming back to the machinery failure, the Hyundai experts have been called in by the NTSB and Hyundai experts,
Right.
because this particular ship has man engines manufactured in Korea. That's HHI, Hyundai Heavy Industries. So they have been called in because they want to get the data retrieve the data from the machinery and they want to understand what exactly went wrong. So through your channel, I also urge Synergy, Grace, and the Ministry of External Affairs that the lawyers appointed by Synergy and Grace, they should apprise and sort of meet up with the crew and tell them what they should do and what they're not supposed to do, so that to prevent this case from getting from a civil to a criminal. So they must know what they should talk and what they should not talk, what are their rights under the US constitutional, so they have that right. So they must be informed about that.
Right, absolutely. And Captain Bansal, the fact that the MEA has not raised it yet, is it cause for concern, or is this the normal drill? I mean, at what point does the government of India enter the picture through the Ministry of External Affairs and our consulate in New York?
Yeah, I have no doubts that MEA would be in touch with the authorities. They won't make a statement till they're very clear as to what is the situation.
Right.
Because obviously, FBI is investigating. They want to be sure before they issue any statement. You would understand. We have been in the forefront of fight against terrorism, and we don't want to be to the wrong foot. So obviously, MEA would wait and watch before coming out with a formal statement. But as I said, these are issues which will have to be investigated, since the names of the crew members have not been given, because this is an issue where even one single member could be implicated or could have caused that. I'm sure as the investigation progresses, most of the crew would be let go. But of course, the key person probably might remain incarcerated for a longer period. We have seen in similar accidents that have involved merchant ships at different times that there have been issues where people have remained in confinement for years. And very often, people are apprehended for such issues. Certain frivolous charges are framed against us. So in the case of Mauritius case, where one merchant ship had actually grounded and there was a huge oil spill, the captain was all kept in custody for over 16 months. All sorts of charges were framed against him, of course, which were all frivolous and fell by the wayside. But it took quite a lot of time before he could be released.
Right, absolutely. And Captain Singhal, just break down for us this thing of the crew being on board the ship, for the passage of the investigation. What were the last few cases that you could recall very quickly where the crew were sort of incarcerated on board the ship? They had to spend extended periods of time, just so that we understand that this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is what happens normally in such very serious cases of either spillage or accidents, maritime accidents.
No. Yeah, like Captain Bansal mentioned, you have the Mauritius oil spill. So they retain, I think, the chief officer and the captain and the chief engineer. So the senior officers were sort of, not released immediately. But I think the master, the captain and the chief engineer are still over there. So such cases, or for that matter, you had the cases of let's say, now in the case of Ever Given, that ship was blocked the Suez for 6 days, but there was no detention out there. The ship was released, and the company agreed to pay a certain amount, which was agreed between the two parties, that's the Suez Canal authorities and the owners. So they eventually paid. So in recent history, Sandeep, there is no example where such a disaster has happened where the entire crew has been retained. There has been a case in Indonesia where a particular tanker crossing the Sundai Channel, they hit one of the fishing vessels which collided and with this tanker, the Norwegian tanker, and that tanker, the fishing vessel sank. So that vessel was detained for a period of 9 months, and they were not released. So with all the political pressures and all the legal, eventually I think they were released after 10 months, but they were not taken into custody. They remained on board the ship itself. And regarding FBI, the reason why FBI has come in is because the federal bridge has got destroyed and 6 people have died. So they're coming into that. So basically the investigation by FBI is fine. They do it. But you need to do it systematically. You need to do it, keeping in mind your individual seafarers. And that seafarers, there's no conspiracy out here. It's an incident that's occurred, and NTSB has already indicated that the incident is related to an electrical malfunction and possibly something to do with the circuit breakers. That's what the news is. So if that is the case, then the FBI could have waited for a bit of time, and even if they wanted to do that, they could have done it a little bit more gracefully.
Right, absolutely. Justin, FBI not wanting to rule out anything
But I think that's a
Especially-
standard procedure
Yeah.
across in any incidents. Even like, for example, if you remember after September 11,
Yes.
there was this United Airways that crashed into in
Into
New
the
York
open
suburb,
field.
one of the New York suburbs. It fell
Yes.
just a month after that.
Right.
And immediately, obviously, FBI was into it, even though it was just a crash that was due to pilot error, something, or
Right.
nose error. So that is a standard operating procedure that you see in across America. All these cases where FBI is brought in for the federal investigation, an overall investigation. So that's in line. So again, the question comes back to how long is it going to be? And I think it's a long drawn affair that is expected in this front. Right now.
It's a long drawn affair, as Justin mentioned. The crew have been on board the ship. The 22 Indian crew members have been on board the ship for over a month now. And as our experts have told us that they could be there for a longer haul as well. I mean, that's something that's we can only hope that they make it back quickly in time, and they've cleared their names. Just they've been alleged, all kinds of allegations are being thrown at them that they're incompetent, they couldn't do all
Even
that.
from racist angles were also
Absolutely.
coming in.
I remember the initial racist gifs that were doing the rounds,
Yes.
that it's inconceivable for them that Indians could be on board a ship, and but they are, and Indians are one of the biggest contributors of manpower in merchant shipping across the world, and we can only hope that the 22 crew on board the Dali come back very quickly home, safe and sound, back to their families. But thank you very much for joining us this evening, Captain Bansal, Captain Singhal, and my colleague Justin Thomas.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.